When we think of vampires today, it's easy to picture the classic image: a pale figure draped in a cape, lurking in the shadows, with sharp fangs ready to sink into human flesh. That's the Hollywood version we all know. Fictional, right? Or is it? Let's dive into 5 creepy encounters of so-called real vampires and the terrifying stories behind them. Dim the lights, settle in, and prepare for the unsettling tale of the Case of Peter Plogojowitz. This story takes us back to 18th century Serbia, to the village of Kiselova, where Peter Plogojowitz's death in 1725 marked the beginning of one of the earliest documented cases of vampirism. Peter was an ordinary peasant in life, but death didn't seem to stop him. Just days after his burial, villagers began to die mysteriously. 9 people in total, each within 8 days of each other. But here's the most disturbing detail. Before dying, each victim claimed they had been visited by Peter in the dead of night. Even Peter's widow swore he returned to their home, demanding food from their son. When the boy refused, Peter allegedly killed him and drank his blood. Panic swept through the village, and the townspeople decided to exhume Peter's body, looking for signs of vampirism. They found more than they expected. His corpse looked far too fresh for someone buried for over a week. Hair and nails had seemingly grown, and worst of all, fresh blood dripped from his lips. Convinced they were dealing with a vampire, the villagers staked Peter's heart. A gush of blood poured from his body, leaving no doubt in their minds. They burned his remains, hoping to end the nightmare. It was this case that helped fuel the vampire hysteria that would soon come to grip Europe. Fast forward to May 4, 1932, in Stockholm, Sweden. The lifeless body of 32-year-old prostitute Lily Lindeström was discovered in her small apartment. What police found was more gruesome than they could have imagined. Lily had been killed by blunt force trauma, but that wasn't the worst of it. Bite marks covered her neck and other parts of her body, and next to her was a blood-stained gravy ladle. The crime scene was almost devoid of blood, leading investigators to a horrifying conclusion. Someone had drained her body and used the ladle to drink it. Swedish newspapers were quick to label the unknown killer the Atlas vampire. Strangely, Lily's clothes had been neatly folded beside her, and though there were signs of sexual activity, it was clear the focus was her blood. Despite interviewing multiple suspects, the case remains unsolved, with the Atlas vampire still haunting the history of Stockholm. Between 1918 and 1924, Fritz Haarmann terrorized Hanover, Germany, with a brutal string of murders. Known as the Vampire of Hanover, Haarmann's crimes earned him other dark nicknames like the Butcher and the Wolfman. Haarmann, a petty criminal turned police informant, lured young men and boys into his apartment under the guise of offering them work or shelter. Once there, he plied them with alcohol, sexually assaulted them, and then killed them by biting into their throats, ripping through the flesh in what he chillingly called his love bite. After his gruesome murders, Haarmann would dismember his victims, disposing of their remains in the Lina River or nearby fields. When police finally caught up with him, hundreds of bones were found in the river, leading to Haarmann's arrest. Disturbingly, rumors surfaced that he had sold his victims' flesh as black market meat during post-war food shortages, though this was never confirmed. Haarmann was eventually convicted of 24 murders, but claimed his total count was much higher. He was executed by beheading in 1925, leaving behind a legacy of horror that would be dissected, literally. His brain was preserved for study until it was cremated in 2014. Tracey Wigginton, known as the lesbian vampire killer, shocked Australia in 1989 with a crime that was as brutal as it was bizarre. Born in 1965, Wigginton had long claimed to have vampire tendencies, preferring to drink animal blood as a child. But her hunger soon grew darker. With the help of her lover, Lisa Tashinsky, and 2 other women, Wigginton sought out human blood to satisfy her growing urges. On the night of October 20th, 1989, they found their victim, 47-year-old Edward Baldock, a father of 4 who was walking home from a night out. Luring him into their car with promises of sex, the women took him to a park near the Brisbane River. There, Wigginton stabbed Baldock 27 times, nearly decapitating him, and then drank his blood. She was quickly apprehended after leaving her ATM card in Baldock's shoe. During questioning, Wigginton showed no remorse, even casually lighting a cigarette after the murder. She was sentenced to life in prison, though she was released in 2012, still shrouded in the dark reputation of her vampiric crime. Not all vampire stories are centuries old. Merticus is a modern man who claims to live as a real-life vampire. Based in the US, he appears outwardly ordinary, a man with a wife, a dog, and a passion for reading and writing poetry. But since 1997, he has publicly embraced his vampiric identity, claiming he needs to consume human blood to stay healthy. Merticus co-founded the Atlanta Vampire Alliance, an organization that supports others who identify as vampires. For Merticus, it's not about the thrill of bloodshed, but a necessity. He explains that drinking blood helps him manage chronic health issues like asthma and immune deficiencies. Using a small lancet, Merticus carefully extracts blood from willing donors and consumes it weekly to maintain his well-being. While many might dismiss his claims as fantasy, Merticus and his fellow vampires insist their practices are both real and vital to their health. In a world where the line between fiction and reality blurs, Merticus reminds us that sometimes the monsters we fear are just ordinary people with extraordinary lives. From centuries-old legends to modern-day confessions, these stories challenge what we think we know about vampires. Are they merely a creation of folklore? Or is there something more sinister lurking just beneath the surface? Only time, and perhaps more chilling discoveries, will tell. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to like and subscribe. Thanks again, and I hope to see you next time.